What's a completely legal action that would instantly make you suspect someone is a serial killer? Story 1. One time, a buddy and I were at Home Depot and for a variety of reasons bought a tarp, trash bags, rope, duct tape, an axe, gloves, and I don't know, maybe a couple other things, but you get the idea. Cashier just says, "Am I gonna read about you guys on the news later?" Story 2. My neighbor has a bunch of human-length patches of disturbed dirt in his backyard. My wife and I joke that he has 6 corpses buried back there. Answer: used to live down the street from this pretty run-down-looking house. Someone definitely lived there, though, because the cars in the driveway would change. Anyways, the entire yard was full of those big blue barrels with the lids. Like dozens of them. We always joked they were full of bodies. Last time I went home, though, I noticed the house and the barrels were gone. Never saw anything regarding a body farm, so who knows? Story 3. My wife and I separated over a decade ago. We never divorced, and she went off-grid. When I talk about this with coworkers, it's usually something like, "Wait, you're married?" "Yeah, but I haven't seen her in over 10 years. Then I get weird looks for a long time. Answer: knew a guy who separated, but didn't divorce. Hadn't seen the woman in ages and dislike her. Guy didn't write a will or set up anything, and when he died, the wife came back into town, promising the guy's children she wasn't their mother. She would share the inheritance. This put them off guard, so they didn't hire any lawyers. She changed her tune as soon as the funeral was over. All I'm saying is, if you don't get divorced, at least make sure your will is very clear if you have something specific in mind for where your money goes. Story 4. Any male renting a wood chipper in the New England area. If you're married, return usually requires your wife to accompany is the joke. Story 5. Went over to my uncle's once, and his 9-year-old daughter comes in the house with a red pair of grown women's high heels on. Tells us that the neighbor across the street, who lives alone, never been married, quiet 60-year-old guy, gave her them out of a big box he has of women's old shoes. What? Story 6. Talking loudly about serial killers at a party. Saving articles on local homicides at your work computer. Story 7. My uncle, Dad's cousin's stepdad, but everyone called him Uncle Bob, had a key maker in the trunk of his car, and he never gave off burglar vibes, but he definitely gave off creeper-murderer vibes. Story 8. I live in a trailer park. One night I couldn't sleep, so I decided to reset a fence post that had gotten bent. It's past midnight, and I'm digging a hole in a shady trailer park. It definitely felt a little suspicious. Story 9. If when an unwanted dog comes on your property, you pin them down and rub salve, tiger balm, icy hot, etc. all over their belly, then send them home. Very specific, but it has made me suspect somebody because of stuff like this that they do. It's hard to describe, but it was also the way he talked about doing it just made me feel gross. Story 10. Building a massive soundproof dungeon basement below their house with all the locks on the outside. Spending a large amount of their salary on gasoline because they just like driving on highways for several hours a day and have extensive knowledge of various interstates and backroad connections. Spending a lot of time and effort to learn about debate how to disassemble bodies, but they're not somebody who might have a legit reason like a butcher hunter doctor. Also, I suppose it's perfectly legal to just marry old rich dudes and wait for them to die. But after the second rich husband dies, it starts to get pretty suspicious, especially if they're not that old. Story 11. Taking a handful of Jelly Bellies and popping them in their mouth without looking to see what they had. Story 12. Getting hungry when they smell blood. True story, this is actually me, and it's a weird bit of accidental conditioning. I work in a blood bank and do saline-washed red cells. It's a long process with a lot of wait time, and it smells like blood. I usually take at least one snack break while waiting on the centrifuge. With having done it so many times, I now get hungry when I smell blood. Answer: I've never really been a steak guy. I like a good medium rare steak every now and then, but not as often as I want pizza. But I worked in a grocery store cutting department at one point, and the longer you spent in there, the more you smelled that raw meat, the more you just wanted to grab a steak and take a bite. I can't really describe it. Story 13. Today, my stepmom put one of her cats down. I went to the vet with her for emotional support. When asked if she would like the cat cremated, she said no, that she would be burning her at home. After the vet tech left the room, she turned toe and told me was going to put her in the freezer on the patio next to Cracker, because she wouldn't be able to bury her right away. Cracker, another cat who passed away last year. She's storing dead cats in her freezer. I am absolutely beside myself and a little terrified, frankly. Story 14. Guy pulled the stem off of his pear and then ate it from the top down. Everyone at the table stopped and stared at him. Someone called him a sociopath. This was in the military on a deployment. I don't think anyone trusted him with live ammunition after that. Story 15. Showing up to an emotional event and then not only showing zero emotion, but then trying to act like it is uncool to care, especially if it isn't their family. Them having weird hours and doing a lot of semi-illegal things. Them asking me to buy specific things and then asking me to lose the receipts. Them not having any emotions, or them having weird intensity. Always looking like they are either not there or getting psycho eyes. Story 16. A stranger shuffles close to you. Stranger, whispering, "You ever eliminate a guy?" You, "What?" "No." Stranger, "Me neither, haha, that would be crazy." Story 17. I went to a alternative clothing store near Milwaukee, and they had a shirt they were selling with pictures of Jeffrey Dahmer on it. Sorry, but if you buy that, and proudly wear it, then you have got to have something wrong in that brain. Story 18. Suing the Wall Street Journal for claiming that the person drew a picture in a birthday card that he sent to his best friend of 15 years. Story 19. Having a combination of some or all of the following hobbies: taxidermy chili contest, cooking dressing up as a clown animal, skin lamp making cryptography, cipher making butchering. Story 20. Being excessively polite and deferential. I have worked with several over the last decade in mental hospitals. They are deferential and polite to a fault, but it makes your skin crawl. Story 21. I didn't know dumps had closing times, lol. I also didn't know you could just go to a dump on your own. Story 22. Their home smoke alarms do the low battery chirp relentlessly, and they don't change them and aren't bothered by it because they don't notice it somehow. Story 23. Was participating in a trivia event, and one of the categories was medical facts. All of the questions were fairly normal, like, how long does it take hair to grow 6 inches? Or, what area of the body does a thoracic surgeon specializes in? The last question was, how many square feet of skin does the adult body have? The only person that would know the answer to that question is Buffalo Bill. Story 24. I collect knives. And no, not that mall ninja stuff. Anytime I go out of town, I see if there is an independent smithy or blade guy working out of his backyard. I've gotten some pretty amazing pieces. It probably doesn't help that one of my favorite Sunday morning activities is to sit on the porch and sharpen them while sipping on my coffee. All of my friends joke about how it's a bit funny that you take 3 to 4 road trips every year and come back with a new knife, and your phone doesn't work, and you don't have pictures. Story 25. Going to their house and seeing everything is immaculate. Do you even live here? It's more organized than a movie set. Story 26. Apparently, walking down the beach at night with an axe. Police were called on me 30 years ago. I was building a fire down the way and needed to split some wood. Story 27. A soundproofed concrete room with chains on the walls, a metal cage and a drainage hole so that the entire floor can be hosed down. Story 28. Wearing a cast on some part of your body and asking me, a woman, to help you move a sofa into a large white van. Story 29. I used to work with a guy that had the absolute most perfect blocked letter handwriting. It was ridiculously meticulous and can only assume he had journals and journals detailing all of his eliminate. He was also a compulsive liar whose mom died 3 times before HR caught on and dismissed him. Story 30. Due to 2 very distinct events, both winterizing daughter's b-day party, I needed a punch bowl, several bottles of Sprite, one of those big birthday balloons, 6 gallons of pink, punch-colored, antifreeze. I already had the punch at home. Nobody said anything, but when I started putting things on the checkout belt, I realized what this looked like. Story 31. Not even an hour ago, I just had a guy call in to dispatch about seeing a group of about 10 wild rabbits near a greenbelt by his property. The first thing he asked was if he could eliminate them, not how to get animal control or critter control or use non-lethal method. I told him I wouldn't be able to recommend that for numerous reasons, and if he feels they're damaging his property, I confirmed they weren't, they were just hopping around. Maybe use an airsoft gun or net. No, I want to eliminate them. Can I poison them? No, sir. I referred him to Animal Control and Fish Wildlife for suggestions. He called again and spoke to my partner, who was heard telling him he can't target shoot them. Story 32. I watched someone semi-crush a wasp and sit back to watch it suffer. I took a napkin and swiftly put it out of its misery. I don't like to watch things suffer, not even things I don't like. I had anxieties about watching that happen for days afterwards. Just the purposefulness of causing prolonged suffering. It really freaked me out. I have those same anxieties now, but even more encompassing as I watch people in my country cheer on concentration and passing camps for people they don't like. It's absolutely sickening, and they follow the devil to hell willingly. Story 33. Small little instances that may breach societal norms, constructs in an effort to stretch or feel a specific form of control over others. I don't know how to fully put it into words, but think of an instance of lack of volume control that startles, but is just explainable enough that no one questions it. Also, these people sometimes display an over-interest in kids or situations where they can feel dominant. Story 34. Knowing the response times of local police when they pass by certain areas of the town in their rounds where they don't pass by at all. Story 35. My wife used to make fun of me for keeping my camping gear in the truck of my car at all times. Hammock, ropes, an axe, trash bags, fire starters, tape, and a handgun. This goes inside with me. She calls me a serial killer in waiting. Story 36. I am an embalmer and I have a shovel in my trunk. Long story short, my grandma has passed on her gardening obsession to me. If we see ditch flowers or abandoned old homes with flowers, we will dig them up, etc. We live out in a farm town in the middle of nowhere, so this isn't harming anything. I started keeping a full-size shovel in there for convenience when we would see something we could relocate. But it's funny to see the look on people's faces when they see the dirty shovel in my trunk. Story 37. Wearing clothes made from human leather. I don't care how often you say it's ethically sourced, or that the people who it belongs to consented to have their skin turned into a commodity after they died. I'm still not trusting you. Story 38. As I work in the medical field, asking me the wrong kind of questions about sedation and anesthesia. Story 39. I've only met one serial killer that I'm aware of. He definitely had an off vibe, which ain't illegal, but is probably a bad sign. Story 40. I came across a guy who worked as a private banker but moonlighted as a chauffeur, offering to show people around. Now, why would he do that? He had other personality traits that made me pretty sure he was a sociopath. I warned friends to be careful around him. Story 41. Not liking The Princess Bride. I have never met a person that dislikes that movie. If you dislike it, you are automatically suspect. Story 42. There is someone that thinks I'm a serial killer because I encrypt all my hard drives, disks, and devices. Story 43. Asking weird questions on our serial killers, I swear some people are trying to figure out how to not get caught for real. Story 44. Eating human flesh. There are no laws against eating human flesh. Getting it? Well, that's a different story. Story 45. A reinforced, heavily locked shed that they never invite anyone to see. Every person I know with a high-quality shed that they make sure is super secure can't wait to show it off to people because they're really proud of A, their lawn power tools, B, whatever other hobby they do in the shed, or C, it's actually been converted into a hangout alone time space that isn't connected to the house to decrease the chance of disturbances. Like, I have a friend who, when he invites people over, he explicitly does it with the intention of hanging out in his shed turned man cave. Even his wife hangs out there when their kids aren't home. So, anytime I hear those stories from the wives of serial killers and they're all like, I had no idea he was eliminate people in the shed he reinforced with soundproofing, several different locks, and concrete, and told me if I ever tried to enter the shed he'd eliminate me in the shed, and no one would hear me scream because of the soundproofing, several locks, and concrete. I immediately think, welp, I know the shed isn't where Josh does his serial eliminate. Story 46. When someone asks something like, what's a completely legal action that would instantly make you suspect someone is a serial killer on internet forums? Story 47. I once wrote an English story for an exam. Decided to write about the easiest ways to eliminate someone and not get caught. I'm probably flagged in a system somewhere. Story 48. I had a roommate in college that was just fucking weird. Used the oven time for his alarm clock. Box of Pop-Tarts that I said he could have 1 or 2 packs had all the packs still in there with 1 Pop-Tart removed from each and 1 remaining in the open foil. Story 49. There was a joke during COVID saying it was the only time you could wear a mask and buy tarps, rope, axe, gloves, and bleach without seeming suspicious. Story 50. A house I visited with a friend had a patio, completely closed in with steel frame. On the patio floor was a trap door. Under the trap door was a pit a few meters wide as it was deep, no ladder or steps to get out. That place gave me massive chills. Story 51. I worked at Home Depot once, and this gentleman came in asking for a tarp. My follow-up question to his request, as I walked him to the section, was, "What size do you need?" He didn't know. I asked him what he needed it for, to which he replied, Well, that's not important. I just need to make sure it's big enough. Didn't ask any more questions, and I let him decide. Never been so sure he was a killer. Story 52. Went on a date with a guy once who immediately raised a small flag with how he was dressed because he was dressed up more than what was common for a guy his age on a casual first date. Like business casual, even though he wasn't in a professional line of work where those clothes were common to just have. He looked like his mom dressed him for picture day. But whatever, right? Then we get to the car. Back seat with a clearly visible coil of nylon rope just sitting there. Awkward small talk. Basically, I felt like I was on a date with Dexter Morgan. Oh, and him married to him now. Turns out he's just kind of an odd duck. It grew on me, I guess. I do occasionally still have to encourage normal casual outfits for casual events. Story 53. Having locks on the outside of your doors. My neighbor, who take down his wife, pushed her off a cliff, had these in his home. Story 54. Driving with no music, radio, or any noise. Bonus if they are very quiet when you're sitting passenger. Story 55. Todd Kohlhepp liked to leave reviews of his takedown weapons and accessories on Amazon. Seems like kind of a red flag. Story 56. I eat pizza crust first, my co-workers say. If we ever have a mass shooter and they won't release the name, they know it's me. One director is particularly appalled by it. Story 57. Secret rooms at the end of secret tunnels. When a neighbor complains about faint murmurs of screaming late at night, mainly because the takedown occurs under their house, that's best for law enforcement to finally put the square block in the square hole and make an entire Hollywood production about it. Story 58. Owns a windowless van with shovels, axes, duct tape, zip ties, rope, gloves, lye, garbage bags, and books about serial killers. Story 59. If someone has an unmarked white panel van parked on the side of the road, and when they climb in, they use the sliding back door and really slowly slide it shut while making eye contact with you, here's your sign. Story 60. Cutting the grass and placing the clippings in a big black trash bag, then tying a rope around the bag in 3 places to look like there's a human body in there. Story 61. I had a roommate once who had Eliminate and stuck like 40-50 flies on the ceiling of his bathroom, waiting to see him on the news one day. Story 62. Laughing when seeing people horrifically injured, laughing when driving by crime scenes, going to funerals of people he doesn't know and acting like it's a party. Story 63. Someone standing at their window and intently looking out at the street sidewalk and the people walking by as they slowly lick a butcher or boning knife. Story 64. Without being prompted in a conversation, a coworker said that she didn't have any bodies buried in her basement. She's a really sweet and chipper person, and that just kinda stalled my brain. She tried changing the topic again, and I was like, no, you need to explain that one. She said she didn't have any bodies in her basement, again, and that she just loved takedown podcasts. That's the day I created the Suspicious Noodle Board. Ironically, the 2 most chipper people are on that list. One for bodies in the basement, the other for wanting to vault over the counter one day to tackle a scammer. I don't know what it is, but I will always feel suspicious of people who are extremely overly chipper or nice. But this coworker didn't hit that alarm bell for me until that really weird out-of-place comment. Story 65. Had a roommate that was a serial killer. He got away. The things that stood out about this guy. He had 0 empathy. That test people do with yawning, and He doesn't yawn back is 100 true. They have no reaction to yawns. A room filled with 7 people, 1 yawned, and 5 others yawned back. He was completely unaffected. Was constantly concerned about what everyone thought of him, no matter how mundane or stupid it was. Was a total clean freak to the point if a stray cat hair was seen in the carpet, he would pick it off the floor with gloves, another huge red flag. He was at my house for exactly 1 week before leaving in the middle of the day in a hurry. He's still never been caught, and I sold that house because of the things I found hidden in his room after he moved out that he forgot to collect. Story 66. When they are really into and professional about our blue-collar $14 an hour job, like actually looking shoot up in the rulebook and quoting it. Story 67. I just watched a doc on the Kohlberger, the Idaho serial killer guy. He went on Reddit and would post surveys asking if someone had committed a serious crime, homicide. What did it feel like? And to describe the feeling. Story 68. If someone is bothering me, I'll tell them I have a collection of dead rats. Usually gets people to leave me alone. I do actually have a dead rat collection, but they're the cremated remains of my pet rats who died over the years. It's probably still creepy to most people, but a lot less sinister, LOL. Story 69. Saying their predecessor in their current job is on a list of serial killers, then saying another one of their predecessors wrote the list, then denying there's a list, then saying you're going to release the list, then hiring 1,000 FBI agents to comb through the list to make sure none of the self-incriminating information on it gets released. Story 70. For the sake of showing how easy it is to find out practically anything about a stranger, I once took a friend to Walmart, had them pick out a stranger, followed them to home, reverse looked up the address, found their Facebook, their job, Insta. I got a ton of data on this one stranger. That night in bed, I realized that is what crazy people do. Story 71. Being extremely normal and boring. They never have strong opinions about anything. They never show anger. They don't have a silly side or a dirty side. They don't have any unique hobbies. They're just perfectly bland and agreeable. Serial killers want to blend in. The good ones become part of the wallpaper. Story 72. Saw a guy at the beach the other day in jeans and a ski mask. Don't know what TF he was planning on doing at the beach ATP. Story 73. Having perfectly healthy animals euthanized, in particular pets, rather than rehoming or just turning them in at shelters. Story 74. Titling a post, "What's a completely legal action that would instantly make you suspect someone is a serial killer?" Story 75. Buying multiple protected species of plants to plant in their yard, the ones where it is illegal to tear them up. Suddenly building a gazebo or in-ground pool on their property. Story 76. I was golfing yesterday and my buddy saw that I put mayo on my hot dog and called me a serial killer. Story 77. Cycling shoes and no socks, 600cc front wheel on a track bike. Are both good candidates, but the real tell is still maintaining a daily blog since 2003 and selling bicycle helmets. The helmets sell themselves due to style, but the blog shows severe mental issues. Story 78. This whole thread has me giggling at my own naivete. I do 6 to 12 art fairs a year. It's no problem being out in the rain because I'm under my 10x10 umbrella tent. But loading out in the rain is bad. My stuff isn't waterproof, and my boxes are only water resistant, and the tent must go in the car before the boxes if it's going to fit. So if rain is a possibility, I bring tarp and clamps to anchor the tops. But didn't bring tarps to a semi-desert show, and it rained Friday and Saturday night, and was predicted to do it Sunday too. So soaking wet from buttoning up the tent on Saturday, I went to Walmart and bought two 10x 10-foot tarps, 6 heavy-duty clamps, and a box cutter. It never occurred to me what that might look like. Story 79. Talking about the errors they made in how